This video will be on the topic of cofunctions. Okay, so what are cofunctions or co-ratios? Well, they are complementary functions by definition. If you look at the two words of sinus and cosinus, the original Latin words, you will see that they both have the word sinus in, and the one just has the CO in front. That means that the sine is the cofunction of cosine, and cosine is the cofunction of sine. Because for the one you add CO, for the other one you take it away. Okay, so what are complementary angles? Well, they are angles that add up to 90 degrees, that make a right angle. They don't have to be next to each other, just as long as the total is 90 degrees. If you have 5 degrees and 85, they are complementary angles. If you have 30 and 60, they are complementary, and then you get something slightly more difficult. If you have the angle theta, then his complementary angle will be 90 minus theta. So if we combine cofunctions and complementary angles, we see that the cofunctions of complementary angles are equal. Now, what on earth does that mean? Here we have two functions that are cofunctions, and we have two angles that are complementary. They are equal. Okay, so if you have cofunctions of complementary angles, they will be equal. Let's check. Sin 30's value is 0,5, but cos 60's value is also 0,5. So sin 30 is equal to cos 60. Sin 10 is 0,17, so is cos 80 also 0,17. So sin 10 is equal to cos 80. Sin 40 is 0,64. Cos 50 is 0,64. So the cos 40 is equal, sin 40 is equal to cos 50. So now we're going to look at the different cofunction reduction here. Okay, so since we know sin 10 is equal to cos 80, we can rewrite the 80 as 90 minus 10. And then if you look at this second sentence, you will see that sin theta is equal to cos 90 minus theta. So if that works for any angle, it works for angle 10. It also works for the angle 80. So we have two new reduction formula. Sin of anything is cos of 90 minus the same thing. Cos of any angle is sin of 90 minus the same angle. And here we have our two new reduction formulas. Okay, so if we add them to the previous reduction formula we have an extra one in the first quadrant, 90 minus theta, and in the second quadrant, 90 plus theta. So these two are our new reduction formula. So now when we're doing any sum where we have an angle larger than 90 degrees and we want to reduce it to an angle between 0 and 90 degrees, we're going to ask 4 questions. Which quadrant? Which reduction formula? Which sign? And then we have an extra question, is it a cofunction or not? Let's see how that. And then we can look at quadrant 2. You can have 90 plus theta or 180 minus theta. Okay, so here are our typical questions. Let's look at the middle one first. Cos 120 degrees. 120 is larger than 90, so I have to use a reduction formula to make it an acute angle. Okay, which quadrant is 120? Second quadrant. Which formula can I use? Well, you will remember that in the second quadrant, if you just think of the previous page, we have two formulas. We have 90 plus something, or we have 180 minus something. I can choose any one of the two. In this video, I want to discuss the 90 plus, so I'm going to choose 90 plus theta. Okay, so the cos sign says that cos rule says in the second quadrant cos is negative. So my sign is going to be negative. Is this a cofunction? Yes. The moment I use a 90, it's going to be a cofunction, and then cos will have to change to sin. Okay, so we have cos 120. We make it cos 90 plus what? Plus 30. and then this formula is thrown away, the cos changes to a sin, and we have negative sin 30, which is negative a half. Okay, let's look at the second example. Here we have a sine 90 plus theta. There is no specific magnitude given. It's just the formula already, 90 plus theta. Because of the 90, I know that sin is going to change to cos. I must just figure out which quadrant. Second quadrant. The formula was given. The sign in the second quadrant is positive. I am going to use a cofunction, and then sine 90 plus theta will become cos theta. Okay, let's look at the third example. Here we have a square, and the square always makes problems because the square is written on the wrong place. We need to put in brackets and put it outside as we did here. Okay, so now we start. We were given the formula 90 plus x, that is second quadrant. Cos in the second quadrant is negative, so we're going to use the negative sign. Are we going to use a cofunction, yes or no? Yes, we are, because 90 says we must use cofunction. So cos will change to sine. So here we go. The formula falls away, the cos becomes a sin, and the minus is because of the second quadrant. Now you have minus sin theta squared. So that means minus sin theta times minus sin theta, which gives you plus sin square theta. Okay. That was cofunctions. Goodbye.